Hello, all you beer bastards. I've got a, rather special beer today. That is the Founders KBS. What does KBS stand for? It stands for Kentucky Breakfast Stout. So this is a barrel-aged imperial stout, and we're just gonna. They have a bunch of other stuff in this, but I'm going to just go ahead and forego that for now. We'll read it later. So the whole deal with this is, from what I understand, is they like to age this in oak barrels and like leave it in a cave or something kind of weird like that, kind of crazy sometimes. So that is like a deep, deep, deep brown. Nice brown head coffee. There's too much, in my opinion, for this being a barrel-aged beer, that is a little too much head and it's retaining too much. So that's kind of a little weird for me. Looks like it's like, normally carbonated. Don't know how much they actually like barrel age this, in my opinion, but yeah. Yeah, because there is quite a bit of carbonation still really floating up there. And you can tell it's pretty rocky. So right away, I don't get any, not much, if any, roastiness at all, but it is very heavy, like chocolate and coffee. I can smell the oak a little bit, not much. Ooh. Ooh. That is a nice bitter punch of, like dark coffee and dark chocolate bitterness. Real good punch of that right up front. Real rich and creamy, a little boozy. Definitely thick on that, and goes down, finishes off a little dry, but gives you kind of like that like hint of chocolate sweetness in there. But so it's not entirely bitter. Now, this is an imperial stout. So what makes this imperial rather than a regular stout? That came off. This bottle's been through a little bit. Basically, from what I dug up, from what imperial means, is that back in the olden days, in the 1800s and stuff, the British would brew beers with lots of hops, lots of malts, and then just make them rich and robust and high alcohol percentages possible, and ship those off to the specifically for the Russian royalty. And they, just because they wanted to impress, the Russian czars and everything. So the thing about a imperial stout compared to a regular stout is what the characteristics are. It's going to have more flavor. It's going to be bolder, darker, thicker, and much higher ABV than a regular than a regular stout. And that could go for anything. Now the problem is that in this day and age, imperial has come to mean something else. It's more so used as, in terms of like a specific term, a specific example would be something in terms of an IPA. So when a brewery decides, like, okay, we're going to make a double IPA, they might call it an imperial IPA. So it's just but in reality, it's just a regular, double IPA. They don't really do anything to jazz it up other than just like throw a crap ton of hops in there to make it a double IPA. So sometimes that can be very misleading. So if you want to check and see if something's actually an imperial IPA versus a double IPA, just take a difference. You got to really take a difference in the taste and not just the hops. It's got to be with the body, the head, the appearance, aroma, everything. It should just be more bigger, bolder, more pronounced, and more in your face. Which, given with this, KBS is definitely falls into that category of imperial. It's real dark. It's bold. It's got a lot of flavor. That chocolate and coffee's punching me in the nose, punches me in the mouth. Real dry bitterness. This guy's making a frickin' ruckus. Come here, you. Join up. There we go. Sorry, I worked like real late today, I didn't work real late today. I had other engagements that kept me home, kept me from coming home right after work, and yeah, needed to relax after a long week with this guy. So, what are my thoughts on this? Unfortunately, I really, in my opinion, at least this version of it, I don't feel like it lives up to the hype. That being said, still a delicious, tasty beer, but I feel like it's not living up to the hype. The reason being that is because it's aged in oak barrels, but I'm not really getting anything out of it that screams like, hey, I'm aged. And it should have a fairly high ABV content. Yeah, 12.2%. That's super high. But yeah, so this is not like, as far as that goes, this is not a beer to be chugging down, nor is a flavor or anything. But I feel like it could be a little bit more complex, especially since it was, aged in oak bourbon barrels, is good for everything KBS flavored stout is good for everything a flavored stout ought to be good for. Ale brewed with chocolate and coffee, aged in oak bourbon barrels. We'll see. I'm missing a lot of stuff in there. I get a little bit like, the thing is with this is it's so hard to pick out the vanilla in there. After a while, I'm getting it. And I've always had a little bit of that oakiness, but with how robust the coffee and chocolate is, it overpowers all those, smoother, like palatable flavors you get out of the bourbon barrels, and makes it almost unnoticeable. You have to really, really, really dig and really pick those out. And it comes to a point, it's like, okay, how long was this aged for? Not very long. Did they not get much flavor in there? Is this just that strong? But yeah, this is strong. But it could be a factor of both. Again, I'm not sure. It could just be a factor of both, and that's probably what I'm banking on there. But for being a beer that has that hype surrounding it, and is aged in oak bourbon barrels, I'm missing some key characteristics in the aroma and on the taste there. So it's not, if you would, it's a little disappointing. And you can even check, that's way too much lacing for what a barrel-aged beer should have. That should be a lot finer, a little bit more smoother, and not as much not as many bubbles, not as many carbonation bubbles sticking to the side of the glass. So with that, is this a beer that you should try and experience? Definitely, for sure, for sure. But the price point, at least for, this is the 2019 KBS, at least the price point for this, I would not buy it for that amount. The good example is some of the other barrel aged beers I've had before and I've reviewed on this channel. I think had a lot more of the characteristics that I'm looking for, and this I feel is just missing that. And I know I've said that several times, but I mean, I guess I'm just making my point across. Yeah, if you're willing to go out and spend the money for some of this, by all means go for it. I'm not going to, stop you from doing that. I can't, and I'm not going to. It's not worth my time or my effort, and frankly, I just don't care. If you want to drink what you want to drink. I don't care. I'm just saying. With that being said, I'm gonna, as far as bourbon barrel aged beers go, in a flavored stout, I'm gonna give this a 7.5. I'm not really impressed with it, as you can tell. But either way, I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna drink this, and I'm gonna enjoy this the best I can. And I will enjoy it. 12.2%. Can't go wrong. Stay thirsty, bastards.